Cocktails and fermentation, kombucha preparation. First, start by boiling a saucepan full of water, 1 liter precisely. Then adding black tea, 1, 2, 3 tablespoons. Black tea is the best for the kombucha preparation. Infuse your tea for 3 minutes and let the water boil. Then just move to the table, prepare your caster sugar that needs to be added to the kombucha. Now you will have a sweet, concentrated mix of black tea and sugar. Don't worry about adding caster sugar. Sugar will be transformed into vitamins. All the bad parts of the sugar will be transformed by the fermentation microbes. So you're actually not taking all the bad parts of the sugar. Stirring and keep stirring. Now we're showing you filtering the black tea through a strainer. Remember, this is still a concentrated tea that soon we will divide in two, as you can see from this slide here. So keep stirring the black tea. This is still hot. We will separate in 2 batches. The small one will be a flavored kombucha with lavender, we will see later, and in the big batch we will keep the black tea kombucha, so the classic flavored one. We're separating half and half, exactly like that. Keep stirring. Remember, this is still hot and very sugary. On the right hand side of the screen you can see the Scooby that is ready to be added. Plenty of cold water. You need to reach 1/3 of the jar because you need to leave the top of the jar with oxygen to aerate the fermentation. Now the temperature is best and ready to welcome the lavender seeds. On the left side, quick stir again. The temperature now is around 50 degrees Celsius. It's time to add the Scooby, symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. A little one in the left hand side jar and a bigger one in the right hand side jar. We are halfway there. Everything is done now. We need to seal it. We need to place 2 different muslin cloths. One, seal it with a wire or with an elastic or with a wristband, whatever you prefer, as long as it doesn't get anything but just oxygen through this cloth that serves as a strainer. The second one, same again. Place it nicely. Here we go. Same stuff again. The wire needs to be very tight around the piece of fabric. That's it for now. So inside my little cabinet in the kitchen, we place the 2 jars away from sunlight, correctly labeled with the date for the production. There we go, very happy. The second one, left hand side lavender kombucha, right hand side black tea classic kombucha. They will stay there for 3 up to 4 weeks, fermenting. Welcome back to the kombucha preparation. We've been waiting 4 weeks for the kombucha to ferment. The first fermentation was inside the cabinet. First fermentation can take from 20 to 30 days. At the optimal conditions that we had in our kitchen, it took exactly 4 weeks. I can check this by just shaking the jar, and I can see some little bubbles start coming up. And also you can check that the kombucha is almost ready when the scoopy comes up here on the top, just right here on the top. Now we decide to remove the cover, to take the scoopy away and to bottle. It's time to bottle. So before waiting for the second fermentation, as I said, the step will be removing the scoopy. And what you're gonna do with the scoopy now, this is absolutely healthy for another fermentation. This one has a little bit of the lavender seeds. This one are the lavender seeds that were in infusion. Well, you can either try to clean it, but I don't recommend it to clean it. You can take the new one. This is the second scoopy, another colony of bacteria that grew in the jar. So this one is now ready to be used in another fermentation. So you can take this, you can put it in another just very similar jar like this, add another tea, sugar, water, and wait another 4 weeks. Must be very patient with the kombucha, it takes long. Now we will see that in the bottle the second fermentation will take even longer. But to be patient, it's the first rule in the fermentation. It's very easy. We will need now a strainer and a funnel, and like absolutely easy. This is what we have to do. It's very important to strain because we can still see some little seeds of lavender because we used lavender, but it can be also little pieces of scoopy, or well, it must be absolutely clear because we don't want any remaining bits and pieces from the batch. Strain it well. That was the perfect size for this bottle. It's important to know that the bottles must be in glass and must be clear glass, because you can check the bubbles that will start 10, 20 days or 4 days. It depends how fizzy you want your kombucha. You need to check through the glass to the bottle. So we can already see some little bubbles here, some little bubbles. But this now will be sealed, closed and stored at room temperature for another 5 days, up to 20 days. It depends how fizzy you want your product, your final product. This now will be labeled and left apart. Just to let you understand better what you can do with the scoopy, it's a shame, it's a big waste if you throw it away. Just reuse it. This one is a mother. It can produce up to it can't stop producing kombucha. So the scoopy can go to another jar. Like for example, this is now just to show you. I can go to another jar with another tea, another sugar, another aromatizing flavors, so ginger or chili, whatever flavor you like for your next kombucha. So take the scoopy, just you don't need to wash it, you don't need to do anything, just to throw into another batch for another fermentation. Okay. Every fermentation produces an extra scoopy.
So just think about how many different batches you can make each time you restart. So after this kombucha, we can take the old one and the new one to prepare 2 more batches. There are also some little pieces that can be very helpful for the next batch, since the more microbes, the more Scooby or pieces of Scooby you use, someone says that the fermentation can be faster. So yeah, you can use all of them. Right, it looks a little bit bubbly. Let's bottle it, as we did before. Look, it's already very sparkling. And as I said, this was only the first fermentation, so it was only fermented in a big jar with oxygen coming through. So this one didn't have a second fermentation yet, and see how sparkling it is. As we said before, there were like 3 Scoobies formed during the fermentation. So at the beginning we just started with a Scooby like this. I think that this one was the original one, because you can see it's a little bit darker than the younger ones. This one is the new Scooby that has just been produced. The secret is, as we said before, if you put 2 Scoobies or a larger Scooby, it can start bubbling even more, so the fermentation can be like very energetic. So this bottle, compared to the previous one, as you can see, it's already very sparkling. So you need to control this now. So you need to control this more than the other one, and I'll tell you why. Because now building the second fermentation, or called the carbonation, this is less sparkling than this. So this bottle can explode. This bottle will probably not explode, but they need to be controlled, so they need to be open every hour at the beginning, and you can seal it again. So explaining precisely, explaining better, these 2 bottles now will be labeled. This one is more sparkling, so in an hour or 2 we need to check the fizz. So we need to open a little bit and close it again, to avoid that the carbonation will be too energetic and the bottle can explode. This one, it cannot happen, it can happen, we need to keep an eye on them. So in the next hours and in the next days, it depends how fizzy we want our product, we need to check them, we need to burp, we need to close it again. And well, yeah, it needs to be controlled. This is what fermentation is all about. When discussing kombucha, it's very important to know how the things start and how it can be produced. So fermentation starts always from bacteria or yeasts. Sometimes they are found in the air, they are found in the environment that we are, sometimes they are added into the fermentation. A kombucha Scooby is a collection of yeast and bacteria, and it floats on your kombucha when you start brewing in your jar on top. Black tea and the green tea are always with one of these on top. That will be responsible of the carbonation, that will be responsible of that process when the sugars are turned into alcohol and gas. Scooby is also called mother. So every mother can produce more Scoobies. Every batch with a mother of Scooby like this in 4 weeks will give you another one. So the kombucha will be also a sustainable way of fermenting more and more batches, because every time you add one of these in 4 weeks, after fermenting you will have 2. So the 2 of those will be mothers of 2 more each batch. So from 1 batch you can produce 2, from 2 you can produce 4, up to the limit is your creativity, and it's what you need. The amount of kombucha that you need is your limit. It stops oxygen coming from the top. So it's also, we can call it a cover, we can call it a top, we can call it a lid, to avoid that too much oxygen will get through and will reach the liquid. So it serves as a cover and the liquid will stay down. I want to tell you more about it. I want to tell you that I started trying kombucha probably a year ago. I was very like, I don't know, I wasn't very sure to try something that could smell and taste as vinegar and just fizzy, just coming from tea. So at the beginning I was refusing it, but then for the first time I tried, a friend of mine that did it at home, that did a homemade kombucha, said to me, hey, try it and see how good it is. And then I started to discover all the benefits for the body, all the benefits to your gut, to your overall happiness. And I said to myself, kombucha starts from black tea, hot black or green tea. These are the two teas that you will need for the fermentation. So either black or green, these are the teas that will be best for composition, for natural components, minerals and bacteria that the tea has inside already. So then you will need sugar and of course the SCOBY. SCOBY is the symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeasts. The SCOBY will be added into the jar and with the tea. This will start the fermentation. Kombucha was first discovered, someone says, centuries ago by the monks, by the China monks. So while they were drinking teas, some of them left some tea apart for a few days or for a few weeks, like forgetting about it, and this tea started fermenting, producing one of these on top, one of these SCOBY. So the SCOBY helped the tea to be sparkling, to sparkle, to start fermenting and to be fizzy. This tea were from that moment called kombucha. It's a very popular and easy to make drink. You can make it at home, you can now find it everywhere. Like for example here in the UK you can find it in the shops, you can find in restaurants, in bars, everyone's drinking, everyone knows that it's very healthy. So people are going. It's a drink of a vinegary, sour, acidic flavor, sparkling. Some of them can be just a little bit fizzy, some other can be very sparkling. Again, you need to start by purchasing a SCOBY of a size of half hand. So this is the size that the SCOBY comes from the shop or from Amazon. This is where I find it. It costs from 6 to 7 pounds and you can start from that. It starts like a liquid, like a gel, but by the time you start fermenting it becomes like this, and then from this it becomes 2. Every batch gives you 2 SCOBYs, so it's a very sustainable way to produce more and more and more. So once you start with 1 you can then have 2 and then you can have 3 and 4, it depends how many you want. The sky is your limit. If you have a favorite tea to use for your kombucha, just go for whatever tea you like. As we said, black and green tea are the best. It can be Earl Grey, it can be English breakfast, it can be Assam tea, but it can also be green tea. Sugar is the fuel of every fermentation, so once you add your sugar to your tea and SCOBY, you have everything you need for your fermentation. So caster sugar, it's always a good idea, but you can also use raw sugar or brown sugar. Fermentation vessel. The fermentation vessel can be a big mason jar of 1 liter or 3 liter or 5 liter. It depends on the size. It must be thick glass, it can be also black glass, but I don't usually go for that because you need a clear glass jar because you want to check how the kombucha is reacting to the oxygen, if it starts getting bubbly, if the SCOBY goes down and it goes up, so you need to check what's happening inside. So I always recommend to start from batches like mason jars that you can easily purchase in any store, from 1 pound to 5 pounds, the best one. The timing of the kombucha fermentation can vary from 2 weeks up to 4 weeks. This is called the first fermentation, until you will have a total of 6 weeks maximum once you strain from the jar to the bottle and you start the second fermentation. It's also called carbonation. So let's say it depends from the temperature of the room where you are working it, where you are fermenting, at 16 Celsius up to 25, 26 if you are in summertime. Just don't go too far, because then you can just variate too much the time of your fermentation. But to use it as a reference, as a precise reference of the time that you need, always stay around 20-22 Celsius in your room, away from the sunlight. How do you know when the kombucha is ready? It's ready to bottle or it's ready to drink? As we said, the first fermentation is when the SCOBY and the tea are in the jar. So let's say that after usually 3 or 4 weeks, up to 4 weeks, you will start seeing little bubbles in the jar and you will see the SCOBY floating on top. That can be, considering that you've been waiting and checking your time and checking the days on the calendar, it can be a good idea on when it's time to stop. Usually I stop at 25-28 days. It depends. In summertime it can be 25. In winter time, if it's a little bit colder, it can be 4 weeks, so 28 or 30 days of fermentation in the jar. You need to check the jar, and then you need to just take the SCOBY away and filter into the glass bottles, and then you can start the carbonation. And when you can check that the carbonation is ready and it's full, just by shaking a little bit, but these two have just been bottled now. But during the carbonation, bottles needs to be open a little bit and closed again, because at the beginning, just after bottling, you can have a very vigorous and ferocious fizz. So you want to open a little bit to let the air escape and not to be too much, then close it again. So you have to do this for a couple of times while you are waiting for the carbonation. So the carbonation, also known as the second fermentation, can take up to another 10 days, but just need to check and check and check. Fermentation is it's all about being patient. Another way to check when the kombucha is ready is to smell the kombucha. From the batch, from the jar at the beginning, you can smell vinegary, sour, acidic. That is a good sign that the fermentation has happened, because from a sweet mix that we had at the beginning, we will go through the weeks and the time, and we will have a vinegary effect and a vinegary solution. When it's sour, it's already a sign that the kombucha is ready. You can also listen. When you shake and you hear the fizz, that's a sign that the kombucha is almost there. Another way to check it is to taste. So have a little taste, check if the bubbles are enough to you. That's all done. It's time then to close and to store it in the fridge, to make it cold, to chill it, and to drink it as you like.